Hello, welcome to Real Life Gays, the podcast that discusses and educates people on topics and issues relating to the LGBTQ plus community. My name is Gareth and I am joined by my gorgeous co-host Lee. Lee, how are you?
Hello everybody, yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for everyone's support and comments and likes. We really do appreciate it. And please continue to visit our website, reallifegays.com, and send us your messages. You can also reach us on our socials, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Real Life Gays, but you'll find the links for all of those on our website as well. This week, we are discussing bisexuality. And Lee, we finally found one. We finally found a bisexual. This episode is all about bisexuality. And we are joined by Emma. Emma, introduce yourself to our lovely listeners, please.
Hi. Oh, this feels really strange, isn't it? Yeah, my name is Emma and I am bisexual. I feel like that's like the start of like an AA meeting or something. My name's Emma.
And the thing is, when we've asked all of our previous guests to introduce themselves, they do that. They actually say, hi, I'm Scott and I'm gay, or hi, I'm Brandy and I'm an asexual. And we're like, we didn't really ask them to say it like that, but you automatically do it because it's obviously what you're here to discuss. So I love that. So tell us a bit more about you in general, though.
In general, so I am 32. I live in Aberdeenshire, although I'm originally a Fifer, which you can probably tell if you're around here, around that neck of the woods. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, where do I even go? This is going to be a fun conversation. I currently am with my partner of, I need to count here, 6.5 years. And we have 2 little tiny children together. So yeah, long-term relationship with kids. Currently male partner. Obviously, that's going to be a question that people are thinking, well, wait, which one is she right now? So yeah.
Okay. So, well, that's going to be obviously the topic of our conversation, what you've just mentioned, is we were going to ask, are you with a man or a woman just now? So we do have a bunch of questions for you, and some of them are kind of questions that a lot of people might have wanted to ask you, but never maybe felt it was appropriate.
Sure.
So we are going to do that task for them. So my first question is for the random people who live under a rock, who've never maybe heard of bisexuality or for some reason doesn't know what it means. Could you tell us what bisexuality is in the simplest of terms?
I'll try. There's a little bit of debate, I suppose, if you really wanted to get into it with bisexuality and sort of pansexuality and things. But generally speaking, I would say someone who is bisexual is attracted to either gender or any gender. Like I say, there's a little bit of debate there, but certainly you can be attracted to a male or a female.
But you mentioned there that was going to be as well, like, what is the difference? Is bisexual not just the same as pansexual? And there are similarities, but with, like you've just said, bisexuality, gender is important. You like the man and you like the women, but there's certain attributes of both that you like. Whereas pansexual, it really doesn't matter the gender. It could be anything, and they don't focus on the gender aspect. It's more of the person. Whereas to a lot of bisexuals, the gender is important at the same time.
Yeah. And I think, the more that I sort of think about it from my perspective, probably when I first would have said, I'm bisexual, I don't think pansexuality was such a thing, or I just didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. So I've always said, that I'm bisexual, and my historic relationships have been with either cisgender women or cisgender man. So to me, yeah, I probably would say I'm bisexual. But certainly pansexuality, and I guess like most people probably understand what I'm saying here, but for the purposes of the podcast and who it might reach, a cisgender person is someone who identifies with the gender they were assigned at birth. So pansexuality covers a much broader identity of genders, I suppose, and that you could be attracted to a trans person or a non-binary person, or, any of the other sort of genders that would come into that category now, which is incredible because we have a lot more freedom and words to express these things. But yes, bisexuality, in general, would be one or the other, male or female, and usually, cisgender.
Yeah. Because I'm glad you explained what cisgender means, because there's a few people who are like, well, what is she talking about, cisgender?
I mean, it's a term even for me that I was like, what, a couple of years ago, but so, yeah.
Well, it's me, same as well, Lee. You remember when we learned about it wasn't that long ago, we're like cisgender, and I was like, oh, what does that mean? It was like, oh, it means you're, a biological man and you're happy to continue living your life as a biological man. And I was like, oh, never knew that. I'm a cisgender gay boy then.
That's us.
Yeah.
So, next question. What age did you realise that you may be bisexual?
This is a really interesting question. I suppose everybody's a little bit different. I feel like a lot of people realise much younger than maybe I did. I would actually say that I didn't. It's not necessarily that I didn't realise. I maybe just never thought about it that much. It wasn't something that ever tortured me. So I guess a little bit of background here. Like, I grew up in a really religious family. So my parents are Mormon, Christians, pretty strict religion. And that was how they grew up. Their parents were Mormon. So like, that's all we ever knew, myself and my siblings and things. So even dating was like a real, we weren't allowed to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend until we were 16. You just didn't do anything to do with sexuality. Actually was very shameful and taboo and, kind of off topic, I suppose. So I never really my head really never even went there that much, because I wouldn't even let it go there with the potential of having a boyfriend, because it was just off limits. So I think for me, it was my long-term female partner when I was like 18. Like, that was, when I was first kind of approached, or not really approached, that makes it sound like she was a total predator, but like, it was nice. It was nice. But yeah, the first sort of friend that I made who showed a little bit of interest in me, and I was like, oh, she's gay, that sort of sparked that in me to sort of even really consider it, I suppose. So yeah, about 18.
Well, yeah, it's actually interesting you said that, because statistically speaking, when I did all my research on this as well, bisexual people tend to come out a lot later than gays and lesbians. I find that very interesting, and it was to do with maybe how it's not really talked about, and you don't really realize until, like you say, your sexuality, or you've done stuff with someone of the opposite sex, and it's not till later other feelings develop. So yeah, I find that very interesting.
I think there's two sides to that. I think there's definitely bisexuality amongst women is much more socially acceptable. To be a woman who's bisexual is certainly much more socially acceptable, and therefore doesn't feel quite as a kind of, I mean, people can't see my face, but like, it doesn't feel so oppressing and worrying, and it's not all consuming, in that sense. And I think also because you have that attraction to, for a woman, I had attraction to men. It wasn't like I would have an unhappy or a forced relationship with somebody, like potentially a gay person would for the sake of appearances, So it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
So with your first kind of relationship being female, was there ever a thought, say, in your mind that you could be a lesbian and not bisexual, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think for a while there was certainly like I think I felt as though I did feel a little bit of pressure at that point as well to kind of announce one way or the other. I did feel a little bit of like, you have to choose. And I'm not really sure where that came from, because I can't directly remember anyone sort of asking me the question or making me feel that way. But I did feel there was definitely a kind of some pressure from somewhere to make a bit of a decision on that. So for sure, I sort of thought, oh, maybe actually I am gay. And for a while I said I was gay. For a while I said I was gay. And also I think at that age and all of the insecurities that come in any relationship that don't really disappear as you get older, you just learn how to cope with them better and talk about them better. I felt as though this is probably quite a common thing with bisexual people as well, is that you feel as though you have to reassure your current partner that you are interested in them and them alone. And when you're interested in more than one, gender, that can feel a little bit threatening for the other person. Everyone's a target, like it's that sort of like, well, I don't know. And what if she finds something attractive in a man that I can't provide? Or, all of these conversations come into play as well, don't they? So for a while, I definitely said that I was gay and thought maybe that could be the case. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's just easier for some people to accept, and this will come on to this in later questions. People are like, well, what do you mean you're bisexual? You're either one or the other. You need to choose. And you're like, well, Well, why do I need to choose? I don't. So going back to, you said your family are very religious. How did they react then? Well, first of all, how did you tell them that you were bisexual, and how did they react?
How did I tell them? I had a conversation with my mum sitting on my bed in their house. So I suppose there was a few sort of different things here. I was, when I first started a relationship with a girl, I was actually engaged at a very young age, 18, to a boy, which was normal in our religious culture to be sort of engaged and getting married that young. And he wasn't only just a friend, you know, a church friend or church person. He was also like a school friend. He was my best friend at school. So I had these two groups of friends, you know, my school friends that all knew and loved him in our relationship. And I had my church, you know, friends. Yeah. So I guess where I'm going with this, I guess, is that it wasn't just the way that my family reacted. So for me, because I split up with my high school romance, and then I kind of lost all of those friends because they very much took his side, because I left him to be with her, you know. I also then lost my family and all of my church friends as well, because I was gay now. So, you know, so there was a really massive upheaval in my life at the time. My parents, you know, they're really good people, and they try really hard to do what they think is best. And I think not probably, you know, my mum certainly has said to me not that long ago that she feels like she got it wrong, you know, that sort of reaction. So I actually left home. I was given an ultimatum, which was, you know, you stay at home and you can't see this person anymore, and you need to come to church with us and, you know, do all the right things, or you leave. And I don't think that they thought I would leave, but I did. So yeah, I left. I was 18, 18 going on 19, and went to live with my new partner's parents in their house. So
that must have been horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty heavy. I think you don't realise at the time, when I look back in hindsight now, and you can see things sort of a bit more objectively, you're not emotionally in it anymore. It's a funny one to sort of describe. It was a definite trigger for me. I actually sort of went into a sort of 2-year episode of like actually pretty bad depression. It's like getting a bit morbid now, but that was a massive trigger in my life, where I went from having this normal life to everything changing, all of my circles, my family, my friends, you know. And I have to say though, that it created this bond between myself and my partner that was like unshakable, you know, because we just had each other and that was it. And I always think, like, this is such a cheesy cliche thing to say, but I do think things happen for a reason. And although that relationship never worked out, like, we definitely hit each other's lives for a reason at that time.
The right time, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've spoke about this on previous episodes and stuff. There's a reason why most people in our community have suffered some sort of mental health issues. And hearing that story, no wonder you went into a state of depression, because, you know, not having to, you know, leave your whole family and lose some of your friends, and your whole life changed. Oh, no wonder. Yeah. So I'm just glad things, as you say, have worked out in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And they do. And I think that's, you know, probably something because for us, it's great having these lovely conversations in our lives now, where we've all come to this accepting point of who we are and what life is. But, you know, a lot of your audience, hopefully, are going to be people who need to hear that it does work out. You know, It's okay.
So your parents fine now? Or are they?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Good. Yeah. And we have a great relationship, and they are great grandparents to my kids, and they, you know, and it's wonderful. So things work out.
Forgive me for this question, but do you think, did they accept you before you then got with a man?
Yeah, I think in their own way. I definitely think they find it easier. I think, you know, there's no denying that they find it easier that I've ended up, you know, having children with a man and that sort of life that they always imagined, for sure. I don't doubt that for a minute. They did sort of come around eventually.
With your previous relationship?
And we had, with my previous relationship, and we, you know, and my partner then was, you know, we had Christmases and things at my parents' houses.
Good.
And, you know, so yeah, they did. They really tried. They did.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay.
So you've mentioned already that you're in a serious relationship now with a guy, and then you've mentioned that you're in a serious relationship, in your younger days. So how many serious relationships have you had of both?
Oh God, not many, because I've had long term. I'm 32. I've been with my current partner for 6 years. I was with my ex, who was female, for 7.5 years, like that, and then before that, I was engaged to my high school sweetheart for a couple of years. So like, I really, you can count on how many, I don't know, not that many fingers, how many sort of relationships in general I've had, but the only female relationship I ever had was with my ex-partner, which was 7.5, 8 years, and I've never even had like a one night stand, because I've gone from relationship to relationship, but I never even had like a one night stand with a girl. It was really just that one.
So does that mean
partner.
You've only ever been with one girl?
Yeah.
Both emotionally and physically?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, I'm trying to think like back in the day whether there were probably some connections with girls before that felt a lot more to me than they did to them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
of course, yeah.
And at the time, I probably brushed it off like they were just my best friend. But when you look back on it, you're like, oh, maybe I felt a little bit more than that for them. But again, young, late, teens and even early teens, and it wasn't even really a thought at that time. But yeah, I mean, certainly looking back now, I'm like, yeah, maybe there was more to that for me anyway. I don't know about them, but certainly for me.
So because you've only had one female partner, and obviously two in your current partner, is it a husband or fiance or boyfriend?
No, we're just I don't know what you call it, boyfriend, partner. He's not put a ring on it yet, so
Oh yeah, does that mean you would like to become a wife?
It's going to happen, yeah. Whether he likes it or not.
Okay, yeah. Noted. This sounds like my sister, but okay. Noted. Yeah. She took 10 years, but she got a ring on it.
Yeah.
So my question then: do you have a preference, or would you say it's 50-50? Like you like men and women equally, and it just depends on the person, or are you swaying a little bit more towards one gender?
I think that's a really tough question, because it's difficult. Are we talking about, for me, this is like a whole deep bag of tricks here, because when it sounds a bit cliche, but if we're talking about sex and we're talking about that sort of, attraction, it's hard. I think that's a hard question, because to me, it's not so much about what they have downstairs. It's about that kind of compatible sexual energy. Like I could have a male partner, and I've had, previous male partners, obviously, who I've not had that same connection with that I have with my current partner. That's why we've lasted so long together, So it's a really tricky question. And I don't know if there's a easy answer to it. I find something that, I guess maybe I should have explained at the start when you asked me to introduce myself, but like, if you know anything, if there's anything I think you should know about me that might help, is I am a person who is really interested in this concept of the fact that we all have masculine and feminine energies, within us anyway. I'm a yogi. I'm a yoga teacher. I love crystals and all that woo-woo stuff. I'm a Reiki practitioner. So energy is a big thing for me. Did you guys ever watch that Sex, Love, Goop on Netflix? Do you remember? It's a Gwyneth Paltrow thing. Okay, it's really great. You should go watch it. So they talk about different types of sexual energy that we all have. I don't want to sidetrack too much on that, but what the point that I'm making is that for me, it's all about the energy and it's all about the vibe. And I think, the way that you the way that you connect with someone on a physical level has a lot more to do with trust and vulnerability and safety and fun and, the ability to have a laugh together and, support one another. And it's much deeper than what you've got downstairs, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You touched on the fact, Todd, at the beginning that you've got 2 children.
Yes. Yeah.
When you were in a relationship with your first partner that was female, did you, not say with them, but did you have a need or want to ever have children whilst you were with them?
Yeah, definitely. And we both did. It was something that we talked about. And actually one of the reasons that one of the sort of many reasons that the relationship kind of came to an end, I remember distinctly, we talked about marriage, we talked about kids, and it was always something that was on the cards, at some point in the future. And I remember one of the conversations that we had sitting on the sofa at home one day. We'd been together for a long time. Like, we've been together for like 7 years at this point. And I think I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but I think one of the tricky things sometimes with a same-sex couple is that sometimes there's a tendency to kind of fall into that pattern of friendship. And that certainly happened with us, so you get, sometimes you're like, are we just like besties and housemates, or is there, and I remember having the conversation and saying, hey, look, sometimes I think in my head about like asking you to marry me, but I feel like I don't know what you would say. And this is 7 years into a relationship that we've invested a lot into, right? And her response was, yeah, I don't know. And that was like, for me, the kind of key, turning point where I was like, yeah, we should know by now. Like, we should know for sure if this is right, if this is the right thing. So we talked about it, and definitely it was a want from my part and from her part, as far as I understand, But yeah, it happened in a really, really strange roundabout way. And I felt pregnant super fast.
You just get comfortable. Yeah. And this is someone who's separated from my husband. We were in a very similar situation. We were like, we're best friends here. But is that why we've lasted? Because we're best friends? Is the romanticism, if that's a word, and sexual side, taking a back seat because, we're such good pals. And then it gets to that point where the road you run out of road, and you go, there's nowhere to go here. We need to choose a path, because for us, our path has come to an end, and you need to go with someone else to continue on to, whether it be married again or to have children. Yeah. But you get to that point, we need to get out now, when those ties are easy to break. When you don't have kids involved, that's when it gets very complicated. So you do the right thing by ending the relationship. I mean, as sad as it is, you have to. Yeah.
And it's never easy. Like, you've invested a lot, you've invested a lot with that person, especially, and actually I was going to say, especially when you've been together for a long time, but actually that's also a little bit of bullshit. I'm sorry. But maybe not spare, sorry.
All right. Sorry.
That's also not always, the true case. With anything, you invest a lot into a relationship. You invest your time, and you invest your emotions, and you give that person your trust and all those other things. And it's hard, yeah, for sure. But I agree, you have to make tough decisions, and there's always going to be hurt. There's always going to be hurt. There's no way to avoid it. Someone, both parties probably are always going to feel hurt to an extent, but having that kind of courage to do the right thing it works out in the long run, for sure.
Did you, with your previous partner, does it get a little bit more complicated because then you decide, well, who will be carrying the child?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a discussion, and I think we both talked about the fact that we would both like to carry a child. Mm-hmm. So then you go down the route of, does it matter who does it first? I don't know. I mean, she was a little bit older than me, so maybe it would make sense for her to have done it first. And I guess when you're talking about it and you're not really doing it, and you've not had those serious conversations with doctors and things, it's kind of just a bit of a guessing game, isn't it? But we always talked about ideally you would use the same donor sperm, so our kids are biologically related in an ideal world. But again, in hindsight now, I mean, now that I'm older and things, I don't know how much that matters. It would maybe matter to them, would maybe matter to the kids at some point, But yeah, we both talked about wanting to carry a child, for sure.
Would you say that being with a man is easier then?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, sometimes too easy. It is no secret to my friends and family. Like, we fell pregnant by accident very quickly, very, very quickly, with our first child, and just. I mean, we're really lucky actually that things actually worked out, because we were literally a few months into our relationship when we fell pregnant. So, and
a little bit more complicated serious. when you're with a woman. There's a lot more planning involved.
Yeah. I mean, you don't accidentally have children when you're you're gay or lesbian, do you? Yeah.
No.
Oh dear.
So, I mean, sticking on this kind of similar topic with your ex, do you have a particular type of female that you're attracted to? Do you prefer them to be a little bit more masculine, or do you prefer them more girly, or does that not even a factor?
I think I would say, again, it probably comes back to the topic of energy. So for me, I know that I am very much in my feminine energy quite a lot, which is not necessarily just, when I say feminine energy, I don't just mean like I'm a bit femme girly. I mean, I need that counterbalance of someone who can ground me and make decisions, and, you know, a lot of very typically masculine attributes, I guess. So I think probably I'm attracted to that kind of energy of someone who can stay calm in a tricky situation, someone who can kind of give you that little nudge of encouragement and positivity when you're getting into your emotions a little bit. Someone who, you know, so I think probably that's how I would describe it for me. Not necessarily so much how the person looks outwardly, but how they carry themselves, definitely, yeah.
Do you consider yourself as part of the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think I've spent enough time in gay bars and have enough. I think for me as well, like I have other people, even though I'm currently, you know, a cisgender woman in a straight relationship, like I have, you know, a nephew who's transgender, and I have another nephew who, I mean, I think is non-binary is the current sort of thought that he's having just now. So, you know, I am exposed to a lot of that in my life, my day-to-day life, in terms of the whole, you know, community aspect. And it's super important to me, I think, that, especially from the upbringing that I had, where it's, you know, it was a sin, you know, homosexuality was a sin. And there's a lot of shame and sort of guilt around that. I think for me, it's really important that our family unit is exposed to that, and that we go out of our way to show our children that this is normal and that we love everybody and then this is right, you know. And sometimes for me, that means letting my kids come and sit next to me while I watch, you know, videos. I can't remember his name on Instagram, Jeffrey. Oh, it's going to really... Jeffrey Marsh, maybe? What's his name?
I know. I was thinking of Jeffree Star.
No. So there's a really great non-binary account, Jeffrey... Oh, God, I can't remember his name. Anyway, so, but like, it's very obvious to my children that he was born male and has facial hair, you know, but he's also wearing makeup. And actually, to be fair, I think they are non-binary, so I shouldn't say he, him. I think it's they there. But, you know, to me, it's kind of going out of my way to make sure that my children are exposed to these things, you know, almost consciously deciding that we're going to have friends in this community, because that's the only way, you know, that's the only way for them to know any different. It's the same conversation sometimes with race. Like, we live in a suburban, super white community that, you know, that is like pretty affluent, and it's, you know, like, it's the same kind of conversation. If I can do whatever I can to include, you know, people of color in their life as well. And it might, you know, sometimes I think to myself, like, is this right? Like, should I be going? But, and it's not to, I'm struggling to find the words to say it, but yeah, to me, it's definitely important that we include ourselves in that community as a family as well. Definitely.
So with your children, will you tell them that you're bisexual? Or is that important to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't hide any of the conversation. I don't think it's the kind of thing that would necessarily... It's finding opportunities to bring these things up, isn't it? You know, it's like, my kids right now are 4 and 5, well, nearly 4 and 5. So it's like, when they start talking to me, I try and drop in really quickly into a conversation when I also have a stepdaughter. So my partner has a daughter as well, from a previous relationship. So, and she's a bit older. So when she says things about, you know, getting married or having babies or boyfriends or whatever, like I do use that opportunity to quite quickly be like, yeah, but girls can get married to each other too, or boys can get married to each other. You know, like, I'm going to be the one that just drops at every opportunity, you know. And my kids have like some books and stuff that I've purposefully bought that have, like, you know, pictures of 2 girls getting married, or, you know, because to try and like normalize these things, I suppose, from a young age. And it's not, I know that there's people out there in the world that will think that, you know, when you open up a child's mind to that, it's different. To me, it's opening up their mind and making sure they're aware of the real world and the big wide world. And I know there's people out there that will think, you know, oh, you're just doing the opposite kind of indoctrination that you had. You know, you can't force these things on children. But I just think that's I mean, I just think that's absolute nonsense.
But I mean, Emma, you're
I was going to say that in a nice way, but it's just absolute nonsense. There's no way
you're
you
the
can
same
make
age as me.
Yeah.
Emma, you're the same age as me. So I wouldn't say it's because of what you grew up with. It's because the times are different.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I use the example as my niece and nephew, who they grew up with me being with my partner. They came to my wedding with him. So for them, it was nothing out of the ordinary, because ever since they were, 1 and 2 years old, they grew up with 2 uncles. So, it was never spoken about as if we were different. It was just normal, Uncle Gareth's with, his male partner. It was never a thing. So this is what we were saying before about homophobia. We'd like to think that homophobic people, it is a dying, what's the word I'm going to say? Dying.
I don't know, a horrible opinion. I don't know.
Dying culture? I don't know. A horrible opinion. Hopefully it will soon be outdated, because people like my niece and nephew, who are, 10 and under, they're being brought up in a different world. And hopefully, I don't know, like in your kids' schools, I don't know if it is taught, same-sex relationships. I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think it is now. It is something that they touch on now in their whole kind of general, not so much with my kids yet, but when they get into primary school, it's definitely part of, the curriculum now. And like you say, maybe, the hope is that it kind of ends with our, 80s babies generation, I suppose.
Hope so.
Yeah.
So what Lee just asked there as well, you consider yourself being part of the LGBTQ plus community. Do you feel welcome in the community? Have you ever experienced any stigma or any biphobia from within our own community?
I mean, I don't think so. I think there is sometimes, again, I don't know if it would be quite so much now. It's been a long time, I would say, since I sort of spent any real time, it's like it's been a long time since I've been clubbing, so like out in the gay bars and stuff. But, and I think maybe more so probably from lesbians rather than gay men, I would say. I think it comes with the territory a little bit. I think when you've had to fight really hard to be accepted for what you are, it can be quite difficult to sort of see someone else be maybe more easily socially accepted for being attracted to the same sex, because they also are attracted to the opposite sex, so it makes it okay, So I kind of get it, and no one's ever been like outright horrible to me, but I can understand where that might play in a little bit to someone's thought process, I suppose. And also I do think that there's probably, when I was growing up, like teenager, early noughties and stuff, like I do think it was almost cool for a while. There was a period of time where
I agree. I remember at school,
yeah,
and not for boys though, but for girls. Like you say, it was cool for girls to be like, yeah, I got off with such and such. It was trying to be appealing to the opposite sex. It was trying to get the boys interested in you. Yeah,
because of course we have this horrific perpetual, pornographic society of lesbian. It's horrendous. But that, I think for a while, that it was definitely, it's kind of a cool thing to do, wasn't it? Or it was seen as a cool thing. So I think that's annoying as well for people who genuinely, struggle with their sexuality and are, attracted to the same sex and maybe aren't accepted because maybe they aren't, feminine, girly sort of lesbian either, that's maybe they do want to present themselves a little bit more butch or a little bit more masculine or whatever. And that's even less socially acceptable because again, going back to the sort of, lesbians are enticing to men conversation, like only if you're skinny and blonde and white and big boobs and,
Yep.
So yeah, there's a whole load of depth to that one, isn't there?
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
So you've said that obviously you're with a guy now. You've been together 7 or so years, and your previous relationship was female. So did either of them, like in the early days of the relationship, have an issue with you being bisexual, or are they bisexual?
So my previous partner, I couldn't speak for her now. It's been so long since we were together and we were so young when we were together and sometimes these things change. But I think from my experience and the things that we kind of went through together, I would assume that she identifies as bisexual, and I don't know whether that's still the case. So not so much. I don't think there was so much then. I think, with my current partner, I think maybe sometimes there's a little bit of like, I don't know, like we were kind of mentioned earlier, like those insecurities within relationships, just in general, they kind of don't ever really go away. Every so often that little thought will, pop up in your head, like, I could lose this person, or I've not been showing them very much attention recently, or, whatever. And so I suppose for the other person, probably there's a little bit there. He's definitely made comments, not so much now, but yeah, maybe earlier on in the relationship. It's that feeling of something that they don't fully understand as well, because he's not bisexual. He doesn't know what it feels like to have that kind of fluidity in a sense with attraction. So yeah, I definitely think there's, like I say, not so much now, but as you say, in the beginning of the relationship, for sure. Yeah.
So what's the most, in your opinion, what's the most annoying assumptions you would say people have about bisexual people?
Probably that they're not actually bisexual, and that it is just for fun or a game or, for show or for whatever. I think and that kind of almost like makes me laugh a little bit, because I'm like, if it is for a bit of fun, then what's the harm in that? Like, sure. I'm not leading anyone on by having a one night stand, and sort of, or a fling or whatever it is. We're assuming that everyone's single here when we're talking about this, obviously. But like, I do kind of think if sex is consensual and everybody's having a great time and you're not hurting anyone, then does it matter if you want to? Yeah. But yeah, I think that would be the most annoying thing, would be that it's just a phase. That you'll hear that, that's the one, isn't it? It's just a phase. And that's just the same, not just with bisexual people, that plays into, lesbian and gay relationships as well. But certainly with bisexuality, people feel that they can, it's almost a bit more like, it must just be a phase. If you still like, the opposite gender, then it is definitely just a phase, and you'll end up, here's me ending up with the straight man, but you'll end up happily married with a man or with a woman or whatever, So yeah, I think that's probably the worst one, is it's a phase, just a phase.
You always hear it's a phase, or you're just greedy.
Yeah,
you're just greedy. How many times have you heard that one, Lee? Especially in the gay world, bisexual people are just greedy. You're like, what a horrible thing to say. It's so wrong.
I mean, I definitely don't sleep with enough people to be greedy. But even if I did, who cares?
Well, yeah, it's true.
Does it annoy you that some or many gay people maybe come out as bi first, as then, like, say, a stepping stone to coming out as 100% gay?
I wouldn't say it annoys me, because I can't be in that person's shoes. I can't relate to that. That's not relatable for me, because that's not my experience. And so I can't say that would annoy me. I can understand why people do that, because, as I've touched on already, it seems to be much more socially acceptable to, be bisexual and sort of, or a bit curious or whatever, so I do get it. I do get why it's sad that people feel that they have to do that and sort of can't just say it as it is. Yeah. But I also think as well, for some people, they maybe aren't sure. They maybe genuinely aren't sure. Like, have I just not met the right guy yet, or the right girl yet? Maybe I am straight and I just had really shit relationships, like, so I don't, it definitely doesn't annoy me. And I can see why people would do it, for sure.
Well, I did. Not when I was 18, but when, I was younger, I was like, I'm bisexual. And I knew friends who said it as well, because it softens the blow. Because you're like, It's almost like testing the water with your friends and family to see how they react with that. If they then, have a dreadful reaction, they go, it might force people back into the closet. If they're okay, or, especially your friends are accepting of it, you can then go, well, actually, especially if you get with someone of the same sex, you can then actually believe, well, actually, no, I'm not bisexual. I am 100% gay. So as someone who has done it, I see why people do it. But I think what people who are bisexual get annoyed with is the assumption that you're one of those people. You know, it's the assumption that no, that's fine. We'll just wait until you finally made up your mind. So you have to choose, like what you were saying right back at the start. You have to choose one or the other. You know, you're gay or lesbian, you can't be both. And you're like, well, I can be both. And you're living proof that you've had two, you know, very long-term successful relationships, whether or not they ended or not. You know, you were still happy for a long time.
And I feel like I would have figured it out, you know, like before the 7.5 years. You know, I would hope so anyway, for sure.
Do you think being bi is, say, easier than being gay?
Good question. It probably is, I would say, because as we've said, you know, it's that kind of like, you know, more in between socially. I mean, I do think as well, we have touched on it a little bit, but I do think there is a massive difference between being a bisexual man and a bisexual woman. You know, 100%. I think that, I think that's a real big factor to sort of take into account as well, you know. So for me, my personal experience as a bisexual woman, for sure. I mean, I've never had anyone shout abuse at me in the street. I've never had anyone that I can recall kind of call me a dyke or, you know, like any of those sort of things. And I guess, you know, partly that's because, I mean, I don't know, actually. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they have, and I've just like blocked it out.
Well, without being, you know, rude to anyone who, you know, dresses in a certain way, you don't have the stereotypical, obviously people can't see what you look like just now, but you don't have the stereotypical looking, you know, lesbian.
Yeah.
You know.
Although for a while I did, you know, there was a period in my life that I had a mohawk, and then
really, I would like to see this photo.
Share some pictures for sure. And then because you can't grow out a mohawk because your sides are short, I had to like shave my hair off. Like I had like super duper short hair for a while. So I mean, for a while I did, definitely. But I think I was lucky that I had good friends, I had nice people around me, and I had, you know, a good support system eventually within, you know, my family as well, with certain family members more than others. But, you know, I think I was definitely lucky there too. But, you know, I've never really faced,
yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had a really terrible job for a while. The job wasn't terrible, but the people there were. But I think they were just. It was just a really sexist, misogynistic, kind of horrible place to work. So I don't think that was necessarily just because I was gay. I think it was just because I was a woman, probably. But yeah, I just think there's a big conversation between the difference between, you know, what it's like to be a bisexual woman and what it's like to be a bisexual man, for sure. And I think, you know, as far as stories go, after the kind of initial trauma of, you know, the change in life and the sort of change in family and friendship circles and things, once I kind of found my feet again and found my people again, you know, and my friends and things, after that point, things did become easier, you know, and I think I was pretty lucky there for sure.
I mean, we would love to find a bisexual man just to hear their experiences, because like you say, even the thoughts of people back in the school days haven't really changed. You know, people, I think a lot of cisgendered straight women would have an issue with their partner being bisexual because it emasculates them, or they are grossed out by the fact they could be thinking of men in a certain way. Whereas, you know, a cisgendered man, yeah, they might have, as you say, some insecurities, but they're generally not grossed out by the thought of their women being turned on by other women. So it's always been interesting, that dynamic. So when the statistics came out of how many people are bisexual, you know, there's a lot more women, and it doesn't mean there's not a lot of men. They're just not out because it's not, as you say, socially accepted.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see why that would be the case for sure. And it's back to that kind of conversation of the culture and what you're exposed to, you know, and how used to seeing two women we are versus, you know, two men together, for sure.
Yeah. On that topic, I looked up the Office of National Statistics just to find out, in general, how many people class themselves as part of the LGBTQ plus community. So I'm going to just stick with LGB. And actually, I'm going to bring in actual people who class themselves as straight. In 2019 was the last kind of proper year they were able to get these surveys done. 93.7% of the UK class themselves as straight. Okay. Gay or lesbian, only 1.6%, and bisexual, 1.1%, and 3% of people didn't know or refused to answer. So I was really shocked at how low that was. 1.1% of people bisexual, only 1.6% gay, and almost 94% of the rest of the UK are straight. I thought, no wonder we're still classed as a minority. I didn't realize we were still so low. Now, obviously, there's still a lot of people in the UK, and we still make up quite a high, certain amount of people. But I think I don't know what that works out into, 1 in 10 people or 1 of 100 people. But I found that so interesting that so little people are part of our community in the UK. I thought that was mental.
Yeah, that definitely surprises me, actually. That's not what I was expecting you to say, I suppose.
I thought it would be at least 10%. And obviously when you add them all up, I think it comes to maybe 6% or something, but it might be different now because that was 2019, but I don't think it'd be that dramatically different. And I don't know who they survey, but I know that the Office of National Statistics are taken quite seriously. So I think they would have a good grasp on the accurate number. But I was really shocked.
I don't think I've ever completed a survey from the National Statistics. How would they get that information?
I don't know. I didn't look into that.
Okay.
I suppose it's one of those tick boxes now on a lot of forms, though, isn't it? Like for stuff that seems like it's totally irrelevant. Like they must, they gather. How do they gather this information?
Ooh,
what have I filled out?
When you start a new job, they do like your race, religion, ethnic background. Are you gay, straight, bi?
I think they just obviously they target certain different people around the UK, and then they take their findings and make them into this statistic. So I think it is done, not just that's, Office of National Statistics is for everything. That's just part of the sexual orientation part. But yeah, I just thought it was really, really interesting. I thought, wow, because I wanted to know how many people, tick the bisexuality box, but 1.1%. So even if you look at back what was happening in 2015, you can assume it's maybe now, approaching 2% because everything goes up. But still, it's still significantly low. So for people listening to this, Emma, who are younger or are maybe too afraid to come out or just need some advice and support, do you know of any support websites or groups out there for specifically bisexual people? Or they might all end up falling under the category of the same as us, but any that you are particularly fond of or know of?
Yeah, do you know what? That's a good question because I probably don't actually in terms of current, places to go. I mean, I think social media is great. I think it's a great tool. I think you have to be really careful with social media that you don't start to get into personal conversations with people that you don't really know. I think you have to be careful about who you trust with conversations like that. So it's okay to kind of go online and the great thing is that you can search for things now, can't you? You can search for whatever you want and find access to information quite quickly and quite easily. I think when it comes to sort of one-to-one conversations with people, I would definitely speak to somebody who you really know and really trust, or somebody that you don't know, whether it's through one of these support sort of systems and networks and somewhere like that you can speak to, I don't know, they might call themselves, so maybe some are counsellors, but, people who are totally unbiased and can support you in a way that is, that is going to be the best for you. Because like I say, and that's not just kind of scare people off. It's just that it's a big wild world out there and you don't know everyone's intentions all the time. So just be careful with with yourself.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like you say, maybe someone that you don't necessarily know, you can you can just verbalize it so it's out of your head, mind space.
Yes,
vocalized it. Yeah.
I mean we always.
Sometimes it's easier, isn't it, to talk to a stranger? Like sometimes that is easier.
They don't know you. They don't have any prejudgments or anything. They don't know anything about your life. So it's easy to kind of go completely naked to someone with all your emotions and fears and without having, because there's not a friendship there to lose because you don't know them.
Yeah.
But we always recommend, like, for anyone who's part of our community, Stonewall is the best, I would say, website that's got, amazing features and information on bisexuality as well. And finally, Emma, If people wanted to send you a little message and find out more about you or just follow you on socials, where can people find you?
Yeah, of course. So you're best to find me on Instagram. I'm not cool enough to be on TikTok. I feel like I need to.
Oh, you think we're cool, Lee? She thinks we're
cool. I've not quite mastered that yet. I feel like I'm not sure if I can cope with keeping up with the cool kids. So your best place to find me is on Instagram. I use a page for my business on Instagram called Enlight.healing, which covers all of my yoga and Reiki and all the stuff that I do. But that's my, I put all my own rubbish about my kids and stuff up there as well. And that's the one I use the most. So
we'll make sure to link to that page as well, don't you worry.
Thank you.
So before we go, what we do in every episode, we spin a wheel. Okay. Ooh. This week, because when we've got guests on, because you don't obviously know us as well, we do the would you rather as opposed to who's most likely to. And we have a glamorous assistant that Lee turns into. So Lee, get Tiff ready to spin that wheel. Is she ready?
Hold on 1 second. Oh, go on then. I'm absolutely ready right now.
Here we go. What have we got?
Where's it gonna land?
Okay, so this week, would you rather give up alcohol for a year or give up your phone for a month? And because you're our guest, Emma, you can go first.
Dun, dun, dun. This is going to be a really boring answer, probably, but I would rather give up alcohol for a year. I've done it before. So I know I can do it. To be fair, it wasn't actually a full year. It was maybe only 6 months or something. But I know I can do that. But I feel lost if I don't have my phone for 5 minutes.
But also, is it wrong for me to think people who have been pregnant could do this a little bit better because they've done 9 months?
Oh yeah, I'm saying the longest I've done it is 6 months. It was definitely 9.
I was like, something you want to tell us, Emma?
It was definitely 9. Oh dear.
Okay, so Lee, what about you?
I'd give up my phone.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Because other people could film me and I could still go out and drink and have a nice time.
Genius.
I'd like to say alcohol because I'd like to know how my body would be with a year without alcohol. And then, if I actually quite like the results and how it, helps with my whole overall health, I might then just stop drinking forever. I'd like to say that. But as someone who is single and lives on their own and gets bored a lot, I do like a little drink. So I would also like to know how better my mental health would be without my phone for a month. I know people who have come off social media, for an example, for a short period of time, and they said, wow, they felt so much better. Their anxiety levels and everything went down. So I think if I had to pick, I think I would actually go for the phone for a month because I would be intrigued. Because like you say, the world we live in now, everything is done through your phone. I would give up my phone for a month, just so I can miss my phone with a glass of Prosecco.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you were on a beach in Bali with a cocktail, then fine, take my phone.
But that's a good point. If I was without my phone for a month, I'd make sure to coincide it with a holiday.
Yeah.
I like that idea. See, I've managed to get out.
A disposable camera or digital camera.
Yeah, live like you're a 90s child again.
Yeah.
Well, that's us come to the end of our bisexuality episode. As I say, we might revisit this topic in the future with a man who is bisexual, just to kind of see how it compares to Emma's story. Emma, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your experience. It's been really, really fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it. Thanks. You've been very kind to me as well. I thought you were going to ask much worse questions.
No, we could have. We toned it down. But
maybe another time, yeah.
If you do have any questions for Emma, please visit us at reallifegaze.com and use the get in touch with us button. Even if the questions are ludicrous or a little bit taboo, we'll still ask her and see if she wants to answer them.
Oh, I'm up for it. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I've been Gareth.
And I've been Lee.
And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.